The great hall of the alien palace was silent.
We're
Tall
safe
stone
now,
pillars
Lila.
stretched toward the ceiling, carved with strange glowing symbols. The alien king sat on his throne, his golden crown shining under the dim light. His eyes were cold, sharp, and full of power. Around him stood soldiers with long weapons, their armor black and heavy. In front of the throne, a human soldier stood. His name was Captain Daniel Gray. He had fought in the alien king's army for many years. His uniform was torn and scars marked his face. But his back was straight and his eyes did not show fear. He was a man who had survived battles no other human had. The alien king raised his hand. His voice echoed across the hall. "You have served me well, human. You fought with courage. You killed my enemies. You bled for my crown. Today I give you a gift." The soldier stayed silent. He did not understand. What kind of gift could a king of aliens give? The huge doors behind the throne opened. 2 guards entered, dragging a woman and a small child. The woman's face was pale, her clothes torn, her arms wrapped tightly around the child as if protecting him from the world. The child looked no older than 6, his large black eyes filled with fear. The alien king smiled, but his smile was cruel. "This woman is a widow. Her husband was a rebel who dared to fight against me. He is dead now. She and her child belong to me, and now they belong to you." The words struck Daniel like a blade. He could not believe it. A gift? A living woman and her child? They were not things to be given. They were people. But the alien king continued. "You will take them, human. They are yours to keep. A reward for your loyalty." Daniel's jaw tightened. He wanted to speak, to protest, but the sharp eyes of the king's guards warned him. This was not a place for questions. The woman's head remained low. She did not dare to look at the soldier, but Daniel noticed her trembling hands. He saw how tightly she held her child, as if any moment someone might take him away. The king leaned forward on his throne. "Accept them, or reject my gift and insult my throne. Choose carefully, human." The silence grew heavy. The soldier's heart pounded. He had fought monsters. He had fought machines. But this was different. This was a test, one that could cost him his life. Finally, Daniel nodded once. "I accept." The alien king's cruel smile widened. He raised his hand, and the guards pushed the woman and child toward Daniel. She stumbled but quickly stood straight again, her son clinging to her side. "Good," the king said. "Then leave. And remember, they are yours. Do with them what you will." The words sent a shiver down Daniel's spine. Outside the throne room, the woman finally lifted her eyes. For a moment, Daniel saw the truth in them. They were not just eyes of fear. They were eyes of sorrow and something darker, something hidden. The child spoke for the first time, his voice soft and shaking. "Are you going to hurt us?" Daniel froze. The words stabbed deep into his chest. This was what the boy expected from him. Cruelty, violence, pain. He knelt down and looked at the boy. "No, I will not hurt you." The boy did not answer. He only stared, as if trying to see inside Daniel's soul. The woman spoke then, her voice quiet but sharp. "Do not pretend to be kind. You are human. You fight for the king. You are one of them." Daniel looked at her, searching for words. "I fight to survive. That is all." Her lips pressed tight, and she said nothing more. That night, Daniel led them to his quarters in the alien city. The buildings rose high, made of black stone and glowing lines. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and strange chemicals. Creatures of many shapes moved in the streets, some tall with long arms, others short with sharp claws. But all of them bowed when soldiers passed. Inside his quarters, Daniel gave them food and water. The child ate quickly, as if he had not eaten in days. The woman ate slowly, her eyes always watching Daniel. The soldier sat in silence, thinking. Why would the king give him this gift? Was it truly a reward, or was it something else? As he thought, he heard a sound. A whisper. It came from the corner of the room. The child was drawing something on the wall with a piece of coal. A strange symbol. Daniel frowned. He had seen that mark before, long ago on the battlefield. His heart skipped a beat. The woman noticed his gaze and rushed to the boy, covering the mark with her hand. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Do not look at this. Forget what you saw." Daniel stared at her. "What is that symbol?" Her eyes turned cold. "It is nothing. For your own life. Do not ask again." The soldier felt the air grow heavy, as if the shadows themselves had moved closer. He knew in that moment that the gift was not simple. The woman and her child carried a secret. A secret so dangerous the king himself might fear it. And Daniel Gray, the human soldier, had just stepped into a story he did not yet understand. The night in the alien city was always strange. The sky never showed stars. Instead, red clouds drifted across the horizon, glowing faintly like dying fire. The streets below were quiet, but sometimes an echoing scream or a deep metallic roar carried through the air. For Captain Daniel Gray, sleep never came easily. Inside his quarters, the widowed alien woman sat on the floor, her child asleep in her lap. She had not spoken since their arrival. Her eyes followed every move Daniel made, as if waiting for him to show his true face. Daniel sat at his desk, sharpening his old combat knife. The sound of metal against stone filled the room. He was not sharpening it because he needed it sharp. He was sharpening it because silence was heavier than battle. The child shifted in his sleep, whispering something in a language Daniel could not understand. The woman stroked his hair and looked up. Her voice, low and sharp, broke the silence. "You should not keep us here." Daniel raised his eyes. "And where should I take you?" Her lips pressed together, then she said, "Anywhere else, not here. Not near him." By him, Daniel knew she meant the alien king. But there was something more in her tone. Fear, yes, but also hatred. Daniel leaned back, his eyes narrowing. "If I set you free, you won't last a day out there. The king's guards would drag you back." The woman gave a bitter laugh, though no joy was in it. "Then we die quickly. Better that than live as someone's property." Her words hit Daniel harder than he expected. He looked at the boy, small and fragile, sleeping without knowing the danger pressing on them. Daniel wanted to speak, but before he could, the walls of the quarters groaned. A low hum shook the floor. It was not thunder. It was something else. The child stirred and opened his eyes. His black pupils glowed faintly for a second before fading. He sat up, his voice strange, distant. "They are listening." Daniel froze. "Who is listening?" The boy blinked, confused, as if he did not remember speaking. The mother held him tightly and whispered in his ear, calming him. But her face had gone pale. Daniel stood and gripped his knife. He stepped toward the door, listening. The hum outside grew stronger, like machines crawling on stone. He opened the metal door a crack and looked out. Nothing. Only empty streets. But then a shadow moved across the far wall. It was not the shadow of a man. It had too many arms. Daniel shut the door quickly and locked it. His heart thumped against his ribs. When he turned, the woman was staring at him. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked. Daniel nodded slowly. "What are they?" Her answer was a whisper. "Hunters. The king sends them when he fears someone carries secrets." Daniel's jaw tightened. "So he fears you?" The woman did not reply. She pulled her child closer, covering his small hands with her own. Daniel noticed again the faint mark of the symbol the boy had drawn earlier on his fingers, burned into the skin like it was alive. The silence stretched long again. Only the humming from outside filled the air. Daniel finally spoke. "Tell me the truth. Why would the king give you to me? Why risk sending hunters to watch?" The woman's eyes burned with quiet rage. "Because he does not give gifts. He gives burdens. He thinks you will break under the weight of us, that you will become a slave like the rest of his soldiers, or that you will hand us back when you see the danger." Her words sank deep. Daniel remembered all the battles he had fought for the king, endless wars against enemies he barely understood. Was this all part of the same game? The boy's voice broke the heavy air again. "They will come tonight." Daniel turned sharply. "What do you mean?" The child stared at him with eyes too old for his face. "The shadows, they wait. They smell fear. They want Mother. They want me." The woman covered his mouth quickly, panic in her eyes. "Enough!" she hissed. Daniel's blood ran cold. The boy's voice had been calm, certain. Not a guess. A warning. Suddenly, a loud crash hit the outside wall. Dust fell from the ceiling. The humming became a roar. Daniel drew his knife, his muscles ready. "Stay back!" The woman clutched her son, whispering prayers in her alien tongue. Another crash. The door bent inward. Metal screeched. Daniel knew then. The king had not given him a gift. He had given him bait. The shadows outside wanted the child. And tonight they would try to take him. The door finally held, though bent and scarred from the attack. The night passed slowly. No more crashes came, only silence and the faint hum that never truly disappeared. When morning light crept through the small window, Daniel Gray felt no relief. The silence was worse than the noise. The woman had not slept. She kept her son in her arms, her back against the wall, her eyes always on the soldier. She did not trust him. But now, Daniel thought, maybe she had no choice. He poured water into a metal cup and placed it near her. Drink. You need strength. She looked at the cup, then at him. Strength for what? Daniel did not answer. He did not need to. She already knew. The boy woke slowly, rubbing his eyes. His fingers brushed the wall, and before Daniel could stop him, he drew the same strange symbol again, this time with the tips of his nails, scratching the mark into the stone. Daniel stepped closer, staring at it. That symbol, I saw it during the war. Rebels painted it on walls before they attacked. Your husband used it, didn't he? The woman's face turned hard. She tried to pull the boy's hand away, but the mark was already there, glowing faintly as if alive. You should not speak of him, she whispered. Daniel ignored her warning. He was no ordinary man. Was he a rebel leader? She stayed silent. Daniel leaned closer, lowering his voice. If the king fears your child, then it means your husband's blood carried something powerful. Tell me the truth. What did he fight for? At last, her voice broke through the silence. He fought for freedom. For every alien, for every slave, for every child stolen by the crown. He was not just a man. He was a symbol. That symbol. She pointed at the wall. Daniel's breath slowed. Then why give you to me? Why risk letting his enemy's widow live? Her eyes filled with pain. Because it amuses him. The king wanted to humiliate us, to make me a gift, to make my son a curse, to watch us suffer under another man's command. Daniel felt a chill run through him. He thought of the king's smile, sharp and cruel. Yes, this sounded like him. The boy looked at Daniel suddenly. His voice was calm, too calm for a child. My father said a soldier would come, a soldier not of our kind. A man who fights but does not belong. He said that man would choose. Daniel froze. Choose what? The boy tilted his head, his dark eyes unblinking. Choose if we live, or if we die. The words hung in the air like smoke. Daniel felt the weight of them press down on him. The woman gripped the boy's shoulders, pulling him back. Stop speaking nonsense, she snapped. But Daniel saw the fear in her eyes. Not just fear of the boy's words, but fear that they were true. Daniel's hand tightened on his knife. He had been given missions before. Kill this, capture that, follow orders. But this was different. This was not an order. This was something deeper, something that reached beyond the war. Why does the boy see things? Daniel asked. The woman shut her eyes. Because he carries his father's blood. His father was more than a leader. He carried ancient knowledge, power older than the king's throne, and now, my son carries it too. Daniel's stomach turned. Ancient knowledge. A child with power. A king afraid. Suddenly the gift made sense. This was no reward. This was a test. Before he could ask more, a sharp knock rattled the door. Daniel's hand went to his knife. The woman pulled her child close. A voice outside spoke, low and metallic. Captain Gray, the king summons you. Daniel glanced at the woman. She shook her head violently, whispering, Do not go. If you leave, they will take us. That is why they call you. Daniel thought quickly. If he refused, the king would suspect betrayal. If he went, he might never see them again. The boy suddenly stood and pressed his small hand to Daniel's arm. His touch was cold, but his words were steady. They will test you, do not fail. If you fail, we all die. Daniel stared at him, shaken. How could a child speak with such certainty? The knocking grew louder. Captain Gray, do not delay the king. Daniel's mind raced. He sheathed his knife and opened the door. 2 guards stood outside, their weapons glowing with alien light. You will come. one of them said flatly. Daniel nodded. And them? He motioned to the woman and boy. The guards looked at each other, then one smirked. They stay, for now. Daniel's heart tightened. He wanted to fight, but 2 guards here meant more outside. He could not win now. He turned back to the woman. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone but me. Her eyes narrowed. And if you never return? Daniel paused. Then, with quiet certainty, he said, I will return. The boy's voice followed him as he stepped into the hall. Remember, soldier, the shadows are always watching. Daniel walked between the guards, the strange mark on the wall still burning in his mind. The gift he had been given was no gift at all. It was the past rising again. A past full of secrets, blood and danger, and now he was standing in the middle of it. The alien king's throne room felt colder than before. The golden fire pits, that usually burned bright, seemed weaker, their flames flickering as if afraid. Captain Daniel Gray walked slowly between 2 guards. Every step echoed on the stone floor, each sound reminding him he was walking into danger. The king sat tall on his throne, his jeweled crown glowing in the dim light. His face was unreadable, but his eyes burned like knives. Around him stood dozens of armored guards, their long weapons ready. Daniel knew this was not a meeting. This was a trial. The alien king leaned forward. Captain Gray, he said, his voice deep and sharp, you accepted my gift. The widow, the child. Tell me, what do you think of them? Daniel kept his face blank. He had learned long ago never to show fear in front of a ruler. They are quiet, he answered. They do not trouble me. The king smiled faintly. Quiet? Perhaps. But are they loyal, or do they whisper of rebellion in your ears? Daniel's heart beat hard, but his voice stayed steady. They are no threat. The king's smile widened, though it was not kind. No threat? Interesting. Let us see. He raised his hand and the doors opened. The woman and her child were dragged inside by 2 guards. Their wrists were bound, their faces pale. The boy struggled, his small fists clenched, but the guards held him tightly. Daniel's stomach twisted. He wanted to shout, to fight, but he forced himself to stand still. The king's voice echoed. If they are truly no threat, then prove it. Kill them. Here. Now. The hall fell silent. Daniel felt the world around him freeze. His hand instinctively went to the knife at his belt. The woman's eyes widened in horror. The boy whispered softly, almost too quiet to hear, I told you, this is the test. Daniel's mind raced. If he refused, the king would see it as defiance. If he obeyed, he would spill innocent blood. The king's voice cut through his thoughts. You are a soldier. You have killed many before. Why hesitate now? End them, and show your loyalty to me. Daniel stepped forward slowly. His knife gleamed under the dim light. The guards tightened their grip on the woman and child. The boy stared at Daniel, unblinking. The woman shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. Do not do this, she whispered. Daniel's hand trembled slightly. He looked at the king. And if I refuse? The king's smile turned to ice. Then you betray me, and I will not forgive betrayal. Not from anyone. Not even you. Daniel lowered his eyes for a moment, hiding the storm inside him. He remembered the boy's words from the night before. They will test you. Do not fail. But what was failure? To kill them? Or to defy the king? The silence grew heavier. Every soldier in the room waited. Then, Daniel made his choice. He stepped forward, standing so close he could see the fear in the boy's eyes. He raised his knife, high, then turned sharply and slashed the guard's arm instead. The guard screamed, dropping the boy. Chaos erupted. The second guard lunged, but Daniel's knife struck fast, cutting deep. The woman pulled her child close, trying to free her hands. Soldiers shouted, weapons drawn. The alien king rose from his throne, his face furious. You dare defy me? Daniel spun, grabbing the boy with one arm and cutting the woman's ropes with the other. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted toward the doors, but soldiers blocked the path. Daniel fought like a man possessed, his blade flashing, his body moving with the speed of desperation. But there were too many. The boy suddenly screamed, not in fear but in power. His eyes glowed bright, and a shockwave burst from his small body. The soldiers were thrown back, crashing into walls and pillars. The very ground trembled. Daniel froze, staring at the child. The woman pulled the boy into her arms, whispering, "Not now, not here." But it was too late. Everyone had seen. The king's eyes burned with fury and hunger. "So it is true," he hissed. "The child carries the blood of rebellion, the power of his father. He is the key." The hall shook with the sound of more guards rushing in. Daniel knew they had only seconds before being surrounded. He grabbed the woman's arm. "Move." They dashed through the smoke and chaos, pushing past fallen guards. The boy's power still lingered in the air, a strange energy that made the flames flicker and the stones crack. Behind them, the king's roar echoed like thunder. "Find them! Do not let them leave alive!" Daniel's heart pounded as they escaped into the twisting corridors of the palace. His body ached, his lungs burned, but he kept running. He had made his choice, he had defied the king, and now there was no turning back. The palace shook with alarms. Red lights flashed along the black stone walls, casting long shadows as guards poured through the corridors. The roar of the alien king echoed through the halls, his voice full of fury. Captain Daniel Gray ran through the twisting passages, dragging the woman and her child with him. His lungs burned, but he did not stop. Behind them, boots slammed on the floor, shouts carried closer and closer. The woman's voice broke the noise. "You should have left us. Now the king will kill you too." Daniel's jaw tightened. "If I wanted to survive, I would have killed you in that hall. But I didn't, so now we run." The child clung to his mother, his wide black eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Every time they turned a corner, Daniel felt the same strange energy around the boy. It was not human, not alien. It was something greater. They ducked into a storage chamber, the heavy door shutting behind them. Daniel leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "We can't keep running forever," the woman whispered. Daniel nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We won't. We're going to escape the city, off-world." Her eyes widened. "Escape? That's impossible. The skies are watched. Every ship is under the king's control." Daniel smirked, though his face was tired. "Not every ship." The woman frowned, but before she could question him, Daniel crouched in front of the boy. "Listen to me. Back there in the hall, you released something. Power. You knocked soldiers down." "Can you do it again?" The boy's voice was soft yet steady. "It only happens when I'm afraid." Daniel studied him. "Then you'll have to be brave and afraid at the same time." The child tilted his head. "Like you?" Daniel almost smiled. "Exactly. The escape plan formed quickly." Daniel knew the palace tunnels from his time as a soldier. There was one old docking bay at the far edge of the city, abandoned but not destroyed. He had once seen smugglers there, sneaking goods under the king's nose. If any place still held a ship that could fly, it was there, but getting to it would mean crossing the heart of the city. Daniel pushed the door open, peering into the hall. The guards had not found them yet. He motioned silently for them to follow. Step by step, they moved through the dark passages, their footsteps echoing like whispers. The woman stayed close, her hand gripping her son's shoulder. Daniel could feel her mistrust, but also her desperation. She did not want to believe in him, but she had no one else. When they reached the outer gates of the palace, Daniel froze. Hundreds of soldiers patrolled the city streets. Searchlights scanned the roads. Hovercrafts hummed above, their engines growling like predators in the sky. The woman whispered sharply, "You see? It's madness." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "No, it's war." He grabbed a fallen guard's cloak from the ground and threw it over the woman. "Keep your head low. Stay close." The three stepped into the open streets. The night air was heavy with smoke and the metallic scent of burning oil. Daniel led them through alleys, past broken statues and silent markets. Every time a searchlight passed, they froze in the shadows, hearts pounding. At one point, a patrol of soldiers stopped nearby. Daniel pressed them against the wall, his hand over the boy's mouth. The soldiers spoke in their alien tongue, scanning the streets with glowing eyes. The boy's small body shook with fear. Daniel leaned close to him and whispered, "Not a sound." "You are stronger than fear." The boy's trembling slowed. His wide eyes stared into Daniel's, and for a moment trust flickered there. The patrol moved on. Daniel exhaled. They kept moving. Finally, they reached the edge of the city. The abandoned docking bay rose before them, its gates half broken, its towers silent. Vines of alien metal crawled up the walls, long forgotten by the king's army. Daniel pushed the gate open, the sound screeching in the night. Inside, rusting ships lay in rows, dead machines of war. Most were broken, burned, or stripped of parts. But at the far end of the hangar, one vessel still glimmered faintly. The woman gasped. "It still works?" Daniel smiled grimly. "We're about to find out." They ran toward it, hope rising in their chests. But before they could reach the ship, a voice echoed through the bay. Well, I wondered when you'd come here." Daniel spun, knife in hand. A figure stepped from the shadows, one of his fellow soldiers. A man he once called a brother in arms. His armor was dark red, marked with the king's crest. "Captain Gray," the soldier sneered. "I told the king you couldn't be trusted. And here you are, proving me right." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Step aside," the soldier laughed. "You think I'll let you run away with the king's most valuable prize? That child belongs to the throne." The boy clutched his mother's arm. His voice was barely a whisper. "He wants me." Daniel raised his knife. "Then he'll have to go through me." The traitor drew his blade, its edge glowing with alien fire. Gladly, the clash was brutal. Steel against steel, echoing through the hangar. Sparks flew as the blades collided. Daniel fought with everything he had, each strike fueled by fury and desperation. The woman pulled her child behind a broken ship, her voice shaking with prayers. The red-armored soldier was strong, but Daniel was stronger. With a sudden twist, he drove his knife into the man's side. The soldier gasped, falling to his knees, blood dark against his armor. Daniel stood over him, chest heaving. The dying soldier's eyes burned with hate. "You think you can run? The king will never stop. The child is his destiny, and your curse." He collapsed, lifeless. The woman stared at Daniel, her face pale. "You killed your own comrade." Daniel's voice was low, heavy. "He chose the king, I chose survival." He turned to the ship. "Now let's move. Before more come." The boy's glowing eyes lingered on the fallen soldier. His small voice whispered words that made Daniel's blood run cold. He was not the last. "More will come. More will hunt." The old ship groaned as Daniel forced the hatch open. Dust and rust fell from the metal, but the engine room still smelled of fuel. With luck and some skill, it could fly. "Inside," Daniel ordered. The woman pushed her son up the ramp. The boy paused, looking at Daniel with those strange glowing eyes. "They're close," he whispered. Daniel frowned. "Who?" The boy only shook his head, his voice flat. "Hunters." Daniel glanced at the shadows around the hangar. The boy's warnings were never wrong. He tightened his grip on his knife, scanning the dark. The woman's voice broke the tension. "Can you even fly this thing?" Daniel allowed himself the ghost of a smile. "I've flown worse." He climbed into the cockpit and began checking the controls. Some were cracked, others dead, but the core systems hummed faintly. The ship wanted to fly. It just needed someone desperate enough to push it. For a moment, Daniel almost believed they had a chance. But then heavy footsteps echoed through the docking bay. Daniel froze. He motioned for the woman and boy to stay low. He slipped out of the cockpit, knife ready. From the far side of the hangar, armored figures appeared. A squad of the king's soldiers. Their weapons glowed red in the dark, and leading them was a face Daniel knew too well. Lieutenant Eric Hale, his old partner. His closest friend during the war. Daniel's blood turned cold. "Arik," the man smiled bitterly. "You always were stubborn, Daniel. I told the king you wouldn't kill them. He didn't believe me. But now," he gestured at the woman and child hiding behind the ship, "now I get to prove him right." The woman's voice shook with anger. "You betrayed him. You betrayed your own," Arik laughed. "Betrayal? No loyalty. I serve the king. He gave us order. He gave us power. And that child," his eyes burned with greed, "that child will give us more than power. He will give us eternity." Daniel stepped forward, blade raised. "If you touch them, I'll end you." Arik's smile widened. "You always said that. You never had the heart to strike me down." He lifted his hand and the squad spread out, weapons aimed. Red light filled the hangar. The boy clung to his mother, whispering, "He wants me." He won't stop, Daniel's heart pounded. He could take a few of the soldiers, maybe even Arik, but not all. The odds were hopeless. Then Arik's voice came again, calm and sharp. "You have a choice, Daniel. Hand over the woman and the boy. Prove you're still the man I knew. Or die here branded as a traitor." The silence stretched heavy. Daniel's grip on his knife tightened until his knuckles turned white. He thought of the king's cruel eyes. He thought of the boy's warning, "They will test you. Do not fail." And then he looked at Arik, the friend who once saved his life on the battlefield, the man he trusted more than anyone. That trust was now a blade turned against him. Slowly, Daniel lowered his weapon. The woman gasped. "No, Daniel, don't," Arik grinned. "Good. You finally see sense." Daniel took a step forward, his knife hanging loose in his hand. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "You're right, Arik, I don't want to fight you." Arik relaxed slightly, signaling his soldiers to hold their fire. He took a step closer. "Then hand them over," Daniel nodded. "I will." For a heartbeat, silence. Then Daniel moved. Like lightning, his knife flashed upward, slicing the barrel of the nearest soldier's weapon. Sparks exploded. Daniel lunged at Arik, slamming him backward. The hangar erupted in chaos. The woman screamed, pulling her child deeper into the ship. The boy's eyes glowed bright, his small hands shaking with power. Arik shoved Daniel off, swinging his glowing blade. Their weapons clashed, steel and fire sparking in the dark. "You fool!" Arik roared. "You'd throw away your life for them?" Daniel gritted his teeth, forcing the blade back. "I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing it." The soldiers swarmed, but the boy screamed. His power burst out in a wave, knocking half of them to the ground. The others stumbled, dazed. Daniel seized the chance. He drove his knife into Arik's shoulder. The man cried out, his blade falling from his hand. But before Daniel could finish him, Arik laughed through the pain. "You can kill me, Daniel. But the king knows. He always knows. The boy will never be free." Daniel's chest heaved. He slammed Arik to the ground, leaving him bleeding. Then he grabbed the woman and child, dragging them into the ship. "Strap in," he shouted, rushing to the cockpit. His hands flew across the controls. The ship groaned, engines coughing, but then roared to life. Outside, more soldiers flooded the bay. Arik, bleeding but alive, raised his voice in fury. "Stop them. The boy must not escape." The ship lifted, shaking violently. Blaster fire slammed against its hull, but Daniel pushed harder, teeth clenched. "Come on, fly!" With a thunderous roar, the vessel tore from the hangar, blasting into the smoke-filled sky. For a moment, silence filled the cockpit. The woman held her son tightly, her face pale but alive. Daniel gripped the controls, sweat dripping down his forehead, but his relief was short-lived. The boy spoke again, his voice distant, strange. "He is still alive. The one you called brother. He will come again. And when he does, he will not be alone." Daniel's jaw tightened. He stared out at the dark sky, knowing the boy was right. The king would never stop, and now the hunt had truly begun. The stolen ship cut through the black sky, leaving the burning city behind. The stars were hidden, swallowed by thick red clouds. Captain Daniel Gray sat in the cockpit, hands tight on the controls, every muscle in his body screaming with exhaustion. The woman sat behind him, her child in her arms. Both were silent, though their silence was not peace. It was the silence of fear, of waiting for what would come next. Daniel's voice broke the stillness. "We're not safe yet. The king will send his fleet." The woman's answer was soft but sharp. "Then why do you keep fighting? You should have left us. You had your chance." Daniel didn't look back. His eyes stayed fixed on the endless red sky. "Because I made my choice, and I'll keep making it. Until the end." The boy stirred. His glowing eyes stared forward, as if he could see beyond the ship's metal walls. "He comes," the boy whispered. Daniel frowned. "Who?" "The king," the child said. "And the other one. The one you called brother." Daniel's grip tightened on the controls. His chest grew heavy. He had hoped Arik would bleed out in that hangar, but deep down he knew better. Arik was too stubborn to die. A sudden alarm blared. The ship's sensors lit up red. Daniel cursed under his breath. "They found us." Through the cracked viewport, lights appeared in the clouds. Dozens of alien warships, their engines glowing like burning suns. At their center, a massive vessel, the king's flagship. The woman gasped. "We can't outrun them. Daniel's voice was calm, steady. We don't outrun them. We fight! The king's voice soon filled the cockpit, projected through the comm system. It was deep, mocking, impossible to ignore. Human, the king growled. Did you think you could steal from me? That you could hide the child? No, he belongs to me. Hand him over and I may grant you a quick death. Daniel leaned toward the comm, his voice sharp. Come and take him. The king laughed, the sound shaking the ship. Then you will die screaming. The flagship opened fire. Beams of red light streaked across the sky, explosions bursting around Daniel's vessel. The ship shook violently, alarms screaming in his ears. Daniel fought the controls, teeth clenched. Hold on! The woman held her son tightly, whispering prayers in her alien tongue. But the boy did not close his eyes. His gaze stayed locked on the king's fleet, glowing brighter and brighter. Suddenly, another voice cut through the comm. One Daniel knew all too well. Daniel. It was Arik, alive, strong. His voice was colder than ever. You can't win. You never could.
Give me the boy.
I'll make sure the king spares you. Daniel almost laughed.
Spare me?
He'll never spare anyone. Not me, not them. Not even you, Arik's voice grew sharp. Then you leave me no choice. On the sensors, Daniel saw a smaller ship break from the fleet. Fast. Deadly. Arik's. The duel was coming. The sky burned as Daniel's ship spun through enemy fire. He dodged beams weaving between blasts, but the enemy was closing fast. Arik's ship swooped in, guns blazing. Metal screamed as shots tore across Daniel's hull. Sparks flew inside the cockpit. Warning lights flashed. The woman shouted, "We're not going to survive." Daniel's jaw hardened. We don't need to survive. We just need to win. He pulled the ship into a sharp dive, engines roaring. Arik followed close, his fire chasing them through the red clouds. Then the boy spoke again, his voice no longer a whisper. It was powerful, steady, almost ancient. Let me help, Daniel glanced back. No, you're just a kid. The boy shook his head. His eyes blazed like stars. I'm more than that. Before Daniel could stop him, the child pressed his hands to the ship's floor. The entire vessel trembled, then glowed with strange light. Systems that were dead suddenly came alive. Engines roared louder. Weapons that hadn't worked in years sparked to life. Daniel's eyes widened.
What did you do?
The boy's answer was simple. I woke it up. Arik's ship closed in for the kill. His voice crackled through the comm, full of triumph. This ends now. Daniel's hands moved fast across the controls. No, Arik, this ends with me. The boy's power surged through the ship, guiding Daniel's every move. The vessel rolled, spun, and fired with precision it should never have had. Blasts of energy tore across the sky, striking Arik's ship. Arik roared in fury. You think you can defeat me? I am stronger than you'll ever be. Daniel's voice was steady. Maybe, but I'm not fighting alone. With one final strike, Daniel fired. The boy's energy merged with the shot, turning it into a blazing spear of light. It slammed into Arik's ship. The explosion lit the sky. The smaller craft broke apart, fire swallowing it whole. Arik's scream was the last sound before silence. The battlefield grew quiet. The king's fleet had seen what happened. For a moment, they hesitated. Even their great flagship held its fire. Then the king's voice filled the comm again, but this time it carried no mockery, only rage. You think this is victory? No, this is only the beginning. The child will be mine. I will burn galaxies until he kneels at my throne. The fleet began to retreat, vanishing into the red clouds. Daniel sat back in the pilot's seat, exhausted. The woman looked at him with wide eyes, disbelief and gratitude battling on her face. You fought him, and lived. Daniel shook his head. Not victory, just survival. For now. The boy's voice was soft but firm. He will come again. Greater armies, stronger shadows. But when he does, we must be ready. Daniel stared into the endless sky, his jaw set. For the first time in years, he was not just a soldier following orders. He was something else. A protector. A fighter for more than his own life. The final words hung in his mind like fire. This was not the end. This was the beginning of war.